Hey, this is Carla.
And this is Jasmine.
And you're listening to Cracking the Coconut,
where we tackle taboo conversations in the Filipino community.
By cracking one coconut at a time. Hey everybody, welcome to Cracking the Coconut episode 6. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you are starting from the toilet. Whether you're starting from the toilet.
Or you're listening to us in the toilet.
You know, you could listen to the podcast anywhere. If you want to listen to it while you're doing a number 2, by all means, go for it.
I listen to podcasts on the toilet.
So do I. Anyways, continuing on. Thank you so much for joining in and listening in on the conversation and joining in on the conversation as well. I am your host, Carla J.
Yeah, and I'm some random person Carla picked up the street. My name is Jasmine. We just met.
Hi.
Hi. Great to meet you, Carla. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
So, you know, I just remember that when we released the podcast, when we launched, you know, that was the day California opened up, and it's been a couple weeks now, and I still don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's weird. It's very weird. It's a little scary. It's normal, but it's also not normal. I've gotten used to things being so quiet and so chill. As a person who has lived a very fast-paced life, career-wise and just life in general, being a hoe, ratcheting it up in WeHo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The pandemic has really forced me to slow down and appreciate the quietness and the stillness of everything. I mean, it was scary at first because, you know, lost my job and shit. But that slow pace, that slow living is nice. And now that everything's starting to open up, concerts are coming back, people are starting to go back into the office, it feels really weird. Like I'm not ready for it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I agree. To me, it still feels premature. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we still, like, all of a sudden these vaccines hit.
Yeah.
Everybody started opening up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that I did share with you was, you know, like I watch basketball a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, in most of the season, a lot of arenas didn't have any fans in it.
Oh, yeah.
But then now that the playoffs, you know, had been happening, all these arenas are filled to the brim. And I'm like,
wow.
okay, how did that change? Just because the playoffs started, you know, all of a sudden we can allow people to come in. And it's like, I don't know how the winter's going to be, but it's crazy, you know. I think as creatures of habit, right? What's normal for me now is that being distanced from people, not being in large groups, not even eating out at a restaurant. You know, I'm not really into that right now. I don't feel like the need to go eat somewhere, but all I want to do is go to a show.
Yeah.
But I'm scared. Like, I don't want to be around a lot of people. And we all know at shows, there's thousands and thousands of people. And there's probably only a handful of artists that I'd want to see, you know, at a show without hesitation. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Like I said, just as things open up, it really does feel premature, and I'm not 100% ready, even though my heart is telling me go to brunch, get bottomless mimosas, and then become bottomless later. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to go to Fiesta Cantina in WeHo and get a 2-for-1 frozen mango margarita with an extra shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those nights.
Those nights. And then I do want to have fun and see people. But so I'm going to share this because I already shared this with you, and I feel like I'm the only one who probably feels this, but I know I'm not. So I feel like if I share this, I feel like other people are gonna come out and be like, yo, I feel that too.
Okay.
As much as I love the world opening up, well, not the world, like the US opening up and things are starting to become normal, I feel like not everyone deserves it.
Okay.
Because during the pandemic, I, and you did too, and a lot of people tried their best, wore their mask, socially distanced, did not travel, didn't see anyone or mixed households unless they were socially distanced outside wearing a mask or two, and doing the best they can to flatten the curve. And I don't know if it's because we grew up Filipino, but I feel like a lot of communities, people of like color communities, they tend to grow up with a very family oriented, community oriented. And so I think maybe that's why you and I and a couple of our other friends who fall into those categories, they were very good at socially distancing and doing the best they can to make sure everyone is safe. And there had been times where I'm on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and I'll see people not adhering to anything and just making up weird excuses or giving the excuse of you only live once, like just let me live. I'm like, dude, like, yes, I want you to live your best life, but you going out there and being reckless is an endangerment to me, my older family members. So it's kind of like that, and that's how I feel. So now that things are opening up, I feel like not everyone deserves it.
Okay.
Because, and I sound like a bitch and I sound like the gatekeeper of outside, but I did my part and I did the project, but it feels like my classmates are taking credit for all my hard work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. You know, I think a lot of people definitely were careless and didn't really acknowledge a lot of people, or others for that matter. It's been a constant adjustment to this new normal. And, you know, face it, the life as we knew it is not going to be the same. You know, life has really, really changed. And moving forward, it's going to be so different. You know, and on the topic of being outside, it's a perfect segue to what we're cracking today.
Yeah.
And so what we're cracking is brown skin.
Ooh, brown skin.
And I love my brown skin.
Me too.
I love seeing others in their beautiful brown skin. You know, there's many people who tan, right? And they wish that they could have, you know, this luscious, beautiful color in their beings. But for some reason in the Filipino community, the darker you are, the less desirable you are, or the less beautiful you are. But I don't agree with that. I really, really don't. For some reason, the darker you are in the Filipino community, the more you're outcasted and shamed. You know, the less desirable you are, the less beautiful you are.
Yeah.
And that never made any sense to me.
It's bullshit is what I'm thinking. It sucks, bruh. So Jazz, and to all of our listeners, how many times have you heard, don't go outside, you're gonna get too dark?
I heard it a bunch of times growing up. You know, I grew up in the Bay, and you know, in the Bay Area, it's majority of the year, it's sweater weather. Like, even when it's hot, you better have a sweater in the car, because you never know when that Bay breeze is going to come, you know? Like, even if there's no sun, you need to bring a jacket to shield you. And it's not because I want to shield myself or I need it, but family wants me to shield it, you know? Like, my grandparents is being like, hey, bring your jacket. I'm like, okay, well, so it wasn't really to shield me from you know, like skin cancer or health reasons. It was more so, here, shield yourself, you know, from getting any more darker than you are.
I've definitely had that. I've definitely had my mom and my grandma tell me to use a jacket, and I'm like, yo, it's 90 degrees outside. I'm going to melt. Let me tell you, I sweat profusely. There's when people say, oh, Beyonce doesn't sweat, she doesn't glisten. No, bitch, I sweat. Let me tell you the amount of water that is coming out of my porous skin.
You're porous?
My porous. But yeah, no, I've gotten that too, where it's bring a jacket, bring an umbrella. Umbrellas I'm down for in the hot sun.
It gets hot. You
it gets
protect
hot.
yourself
You
from
know,
those
protect
rays.
yourself
Yeah.
for sure.
It reminds me of a time when I was a kid. So, you know, kids, they love spending hours and hours in the pool. You know, I'm surprised my parents were out there just as long as I was, because we stayed out there for long periods of time. So I remember one time I was at the pool at my uncle's house, and, you know, after we were done, I get in the house, and I think my mama makes a comment, and she says, oh, you're so dark now. And I'm just like, yeah, I was out in the sun, you know? So I go up to the bathroom, about to take a shower, and as I'm taking off my bathing suit, I see my skin. I look in the mirror, and my skin is hella dark.
Yeah.
Like, I have one of the strongest tan lines I've ever seen. And I could still remember it. I think I was probably 12 at the time, but I could still remember how it looks. I was really, really dark. And I don't know if it was because my mama was like, oh, you're so dark, you know, and it was embedded in my head, or because I didn't like the tan line. But for whatever reason, when I was in the shower, I was trying to scrub the tan off.
Yeah.
As if it was like bad. Like, and I don't know if it was like shame for being hella dark, which is really crazy because I love like being tan and brown, like I said. But, you know, like I was really trying to scrub that motherfucking tan off.
Yeah.
And it didn't come off. And I don't know, like it was, you know, a moment that really stuck in my head throughout these years because, you know, that's an example right there of like the Filipinos kind of shaming yourself for being brown.
Yeah, I have a similar story. It's more funny than anything. So this was several years ago. I had come home from Warped Tour and I noticed that I was really, really tan after being in a hot parking lot all day, mosh pitting to Sleeping with Sirens.
Mosh pitting in the parking lot?
Mosh pitting. Yeah, so if you haven't been to Warped Tour or don't know what it is, Warped Tour is it used to be a cross-country tour, and all these pop punk, punk rock, alt bands would be there. And usually they'd be in the parking lot of these huge stadiums or arenas. So it's a lot of fun, just lots of sweaty bodies. But I came home, I looked at myself in the mirror. It's a good time, I promise. I looked at myself
Only
in the
sweaty body I want is in the bed.
Ooh! Are you flirting?
No.
Okay, fine. But I looked at myself in the mirror and I noticed how dark I was, but then I was like, oh, but I was just outside. I wonder if it's dirt. And so I showered and a lot of it was dirt. I was just a dirty ass gal. But I did get darker and funny.
It's probably the sweat from all the people you're around.
Probably. So my shoulder was starting to peel a little bit. And when I saw my shoulder peel, I felt like I felt relatable. I was like, oh my gosh, my skin's peeling from the sun. That had never happened to me ever. And I don't really burn. I just, you know, get more tan, which is, you know, a good thing for me. But I thought it was really funny. They're like, oh my gosh, look, I'm peeling like the whites.
It's interesting how peeling like the whites.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you felt relatable to the white person because you were peeling, but the white person wants to relate to you because you're tan and they want to be tan. So it's like a weird like opposite.
It is a really weird thing. But I mean, on a more serious note though, I did grow up watching my mom use papaya soap. If you are not familiar with it, it is a orange bar of soap. It says papaya on the box and it's a skin lightening product. They have it not just bars of soap, but they have other methods like a cleanser and things like that. And my mom is actually pretty light already, so I always find it kind of weird that she was continuing to lighten her already light skin. And there's this classist Filipino idea that darker skin is attributed to being poor because you're working out in the fields all day, and light skin equates to a high status and money because you're inside with the AC running. And I remember when my mom told that to me, I thought it was really some diluted old school way of thinking, but it seems like even today in 2021, there's a lot of people who think that way, even though they're not thinking outright, oh, you're poor because you're dark. It's like in the back of their head. And I don't know if that's generational trauma, post-colonial mindset, but yeah.
It seems like, you know, the browner the skin, you know, people assume more negative things about you. You know, I wonder if there's a correlation that Filipinos want you to get a certain job, not just for the money, but because, you know, you're indoors. You know, it seems like a blue collar job equates to a poor man's job, or that you're too dumb or too uneducated or too less than to get a better job. You know, and it's like the browner the skin, the more they assume negative things about you. And that's one thing about the Filipino community. Like, they're always so quick to assume things about you or judge you, not knowing that you have your own individual story or situation. You know, or say for example, there's a family member who's the darker one, so they shame them for being too dark, or look at them like, or make side comments, maybe be like, oh, you're so dark. And something as simple as you're so dark goes a long way. You know?
And it's said in a way where it's almost belittlement. It's not like, oh wow, like you've gotten so tan. It's more like, oh my gosh, you're so dark. Get out of here, you fucking peasant.
It's kind of funny too, because say for example, if somebody comes back from a trip, say like a coworker come back from a vacation in like the Caribbean or Hawaii or something, and they're like, oh hey Joe, welcome back, you know, like, yo, you got tan, I see that island tan on you, you know, like it's exciting, it's fresh. But when you go, like you said, to the Filipino house, be like, ooh, you so brown.
No, I get it. See, what I want to know is, when did the Filipino people begin to adopt these Eurocentric standards of beauty? Was it the influence of the Spanish or the US? Or did colorism begin in the Philippines between the Filipino people? There are different walks and different shades and skin tones of Filipino people. And did it start because the lighter skinned Filipinos looked at the darker skinned Filipinos and thought differently of them? Did they belittle them because of that rich darkness?
So in this process of our podcast, you know, I'm trying to do my best to research and know more about like the Philippines as like a nation, a culture, a people, you know, even pre-colonization, post-colonization, you know. And I wonder, like, so the Philippines actually has different areas. There's 3 main regions, right? There's Luzon to the north, the central is the Visayas, and the south is Mindanao. And I wonder if, like, how often did people in Mindanao get to go see areas of Luzon, or like how much did Luzon go to the Visayas, you know, back in the day? Like, did they know that in this country there was people who were Filipinos but look different than them, you know, whether it be the color of their skin, or even like the textures of their hair, or, you know, their facial features, you know, because like there are areas in the Philippines where you know, the features of the individuals look a little more Eurocentric, and then other places in the Philippines where like noses are a little more like flatter and wider.
But circling back to what you said, Jasmine, about blue collar jobs and, you know, the darkness of the skin, you know, maybe that's why Filipino parents want their kids to be light skinned, because maybe they believe that it will help them succeed, that lighter skin will help them widen their job prospects, and they'll be able to have better careers, better opportunities because of the lightness of their skin. And you know what's crazy? This kind of just like light bulb, and this would be a whole different episode, but I remember, so Jasmine and I are part of this Filipino group on Facebook, and I remember one time I was chatting with these Filipinos and just trying to enlighten them about certain things, and a lot of the ones that I was chatting with, they didn't believe in white privilege. But it's ironic that they don't believe in white privilege, yet if they truly believe that light skin will get you a better job, how does that it's like they're contradicting themselves? And this would be a whole different episode. Like, I wouldn't want to get into it right now, because a bitch will go forever and ever. And girl, I got receipts, let me tell you. The ignorant shit I've seen people type out, it's fucking bad. It's crazy. There is a documentary that Refinery 29 did, and I remember watching it, and I had to rewatch it before this episode as I was doing research. And it's really sad how people in the Philippines get so desperate for skin lightening products that they purchase unsafe soaps, there's different kinds of skin lightening treatments. It's not just a soap or a cleanser. They have it in coffee form, in pill form. They have it in so many different ways. And if you don't have the financial means to purchase the top-notch products, you go to a small store that's selling these skin lightening creams, but they're made with really dangerous and illegal substances in this Refinery 29 documentary. And I'll link it in the blog post. So if you want to check it out, I'll have all that information for you. These skin lightening treatments have high doses of mercury in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
that's
also
crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Like, how far people will go for these skin lightening products to fit this standard. And it's really sad. And so there's also this dermatologist in the Philippines named Dr. Bello, and she has this procedure called the Cinderella drip. And essentially what they're injecting is glutathione, which is it's a antioxidant from plants.
Okay.
And it's to helps lightening your skin. And in the Cinderella dip, there's other things in there like vitamin C. Clients will spend almost $200 for a session to keep maintaining it. And in this, they show a clip of Dr. Bello injecting this light-skinned woman. So she's sitting there and she's already so beautiful, but she's sitting there and like spending money to just keep up these sessions of lightening her skin. It's fucking insane.
It's interesting how this name of the product is called Cinderella Drip.
Oh.
Because Cinderella's ass, she a Disney princess. She's light. She's a very light princess. And, the fact that they're kind of like glorifying the name and making it sound like the Cinderella Drip, you know, like it's, man, that's a way to get them. And, like the fact that, like you're talking about this woman that they featured in the documentary, like she's already light skinned. Like, what more do you want? Like, like how light do you want to look?
Yeah.
Is it every time you step out the house and you're out in the sun for a couple hours and you get a little brown, are you like, oh my God, I got to book my session. I got to get my Cinderella drip.
And you know what's I notice about the Cinderella drip name, not just because Cinderella is a white princess, but Cinderella's story is literally rags to riches. It's like they're attributing the darkness of your skin to being rags and your lighter skin as being rich and luxurious, right? And I could be reaching, but it's so
I don't think you're
obvious.
reaching. I really don't think you're reaching. They could have chosen like, I don't know, Mulan.
Yeah.
Because Mulan was brown, and then she put that makeup on. She looked extra whiter.
Yeah.
So they could have said the Mulan drip, but no.
Yeah, no.
The rag to riches story.
Right?
Sounds like a play on something else. Yeah. So I've never been tanning before. Okay. I don't need to go to a tanning booth, tanning spray, all that. But I was curious to know how many times people who do tan need to actually go to maintain their tan. And it's actually, you got to go 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
Like 2 to 3 sessions a freaking week to get this stuff, as brown as you want. And it's interesting because, in America, you're going to treatments to get darker, but then, or in other parts of the world, you're going to treatments to get darker. But in a lot of Asian countries, people want to get lighter. So it's really interesting to see that, there's just as much as there's people who, want to get lighter, there's also a large amount of people who want to get darker. And it's really interesting how beauty standards are very different in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And how far people will go to, reach that level of self-satisfaction and happiness.
Yeah.
See, for example, today, right? A lot of people look racially ambiguous.
Oh, yes.
Because, I'd like to say that the Kardashians fucking put that shit on.
Yeah.
They're white girls who, through the years have altered their bodies, to look a certain way, and it's not just their skin, it's their hair, their faces, their features.
Yeah.
And I mean, if y'all like the Kardashians, it is what it is. To me personally, I'm not a fan of their quote unquote empire, because I just feel like what they've given is not what they've provided to the world is a lot of insecurities.
Oh yeah.
In women especially, you know, like there's a lot of people who end up trying to look like them.
Yeah.
And you know, it goes away from just loving yourself. You know, it's more so like feeling you have to go above and beyond to make yourself look a certain way and appeal a certain way to people.
The Kardashians don't even look like the Kardashians. They still Photoshop their photos. They still, even though they've sculpted their perfect bodies through surgery and working out and tanning and weaves and all that stuff, they still Photoshop the shit out of their Instagram photos. So the Kardashians don't even look like the Kardashians.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And speaking of celebrities, so Olivia Rodrigo, who we already know, I freaking love, and I am manifesting the day that she will get to be part of this podcast and we get to interview her.
Hold up, Olivia's calling my phone.
Wow,
It's time.
So if you don't know who Olivia Rodrigo is because you're living under a rock, or you just not into her music, she's a Filipino-American actress and singer, and lately on TikTok she's been the main topic of, you know, what is white passing. And a lot of people didn't know that Olivia is actually part Filipino and thought she was a fully just white woman. And so it's crazy that the people who have ethnic backgrounds don't look ethnic, because celebrities like the Kardashian are changing the definition of what it is to be an ethnic person. So in the Philippines, and I'm not saying that this is everyone in the Philippines who believes this, but lighter skin is seen as a sign of status, and that they use light skin as a form of capital for better opportunities, education, career, jobs, housing, a lot of things. And I'm not saying that this is true for everyone in the Philippines or Filipinos in general, Filipino-Americans, Filipino-Canadians, or whatever, but I just think it's really interesting, and it's a lot. It's very contradictory. You know, it doesn't help that a lot of the Filipino celebrities on TFC, which is the Filipino channel. It's a television network. A lot of these actresses and actors, they are light skinned. I watch a lot of Tagalog films and shows. I have my favorites. I have love teams. And some of the...
What's a love team?
Ooh, girl, don't even get me started. So a love team is essentially your OTP, your one true pairing, the two actress. Yeah, it's a fangirl
Too
talk.
many, what's the word when... acronyms?
Yeah.
Too many damn acronyms here.
So it's when you really ship two like actors. And the thing about the Philippines, the Filipino shows and multimedia out there, their version of Hollywood, it's very interesting, but it's kind of cool at the same time. They tend to book a lot of the same actresses as their counterpart. So for example, Catherine Bernardo and Daniel Padilla, they are a love team. They're actually one of my favorite love teams. I love all their films and TV shows, but they are always in the same TV shows and movies because a lot of people love seeing them together. They love their chemistry. And on top of that, they're actually together. But so a lot of the top billed actors are people like Nadine Lustre, Angel Luxon, James Reid, and Curtis Smith. They are some of the biggest acts in the Philippines, and they're all light-skinned. Yeah. And so when I grew up watching American television, I never saw myself. There was never representation of me. I was always watching films and TV where the main characters were always white or, brunette, blonde hair, blue-eyed, thin, skinny. And when I started watching Tagalog films, I still didn't see myself because I was seeing light skin, thin, black hair on the screen. And I don't understand Tagalog. And growing up, there would be times where my family would watch Filipino
news or Filipino movies, and I had no clue what they're saying. But aside from not knowing what they were saying, I didn't have any interest in watching any of these shows because I honestly didn't see people that looked like me. And like you said, they were all light-skinned, and to me it's just like I could tell, even as a kid, I could tell that they're putting on people in these roles because they looked a certain way. And I always thought, like, okay, that's interesting, like, how come these people don't look like anyone in my family? Or
Ooh, yeah.
Why do they all look like a certain definitely light-skinned was something that stood out. But also they're very, like, their features were very like I said before, Eurocentric.
Yeah.
They had the pointy nose, they had the chiseled jawline and that appeal, and I thought that was just, like, really interesting. And I think even then I was, like, kind of turned off by that, by that lack of representation, or too much representation of a certain type of individual.
Yeah, for sure. And Filipino-ness is not a monolith.
Yeah.
There are so many different types of Filipinos. And so if someone wanted to watch a Filipino movie or TV show and they see a lot of these same actors and actresses, they might think this is the standard of Filipino. This is what Filipino looks like, not knowing that there's so many shades and skin tones to us. And what I noticed while watching these shows and movies is that if there are darker skinned actors in these shows or movies, they are inaccurately represented. They either play poor, disadvantaged people or they're the villain. So there is a movie called Crazy Beautiful You starring Catherine Bernardo and Daniel Padilla. I think it came out in like 2015, 2016. It's one of my favorite movies, to be honest. I love it. But so Catherine plays a bad girl named Jackie, and she goes on a medical mission with her mom in Tarlac. Shout out Tarlac! What? That's where I'm from, if you don't know. But there she befriends the people that they're helping, and they happen to be dark-skinned Filipinos with really thick, coarse hair. And they're running around in raggedy clothes. They're not even like the main character. They're just like, they're the village people. And I'm not saying that does not exist in the Philippines, because there are, but the one time they decide to showcase a darker skinned Filipino, they're portrayed as village people. And like I said, Catherine Bernardo and Daniel Padilla are some of the biggest actors there. There are people, flocks and flocks of people who run and watch their movies and watch any TV show they are in. You put them in a movie, it is guaranteed they are going to make so much money off of that. So you already have millions of eyes watching this, and that's millions of eyes who might get an inaccurate representation of darker skinned Filipinos. And it might not have been done on purpose or whatever, but it's definitely something I've noticed.
See, I believe that these things are done on purpose because, throughout the years of programming that I've seen, and I'm sure that you've seen, is we know who's on the forefront of these movies and these shows. Like, there's no surprise to why they just showcase the brown people as the inferior, and then the superior is the light-skinned people, like doing like the missionary work and helping out these people in the village. And yes, there's times where people who obviously if there's people who are in situations that need assistance, we help them. Yes. But it was just interesting that they portrayed the lighter people to look in a better light than the brownies, and it's crystal clear how in film, in programming, that the lighter skinned Filipinos are seen to be the top dog.
Yeah. And what's also crazy about a lot of the top billed Filipino actors is a lot of them aren't full Filipino. They're actually half. Some of them are half German, half American, half Australian, half British. Yeah. Yasi Pressman, another amazing actress. I love her. She has, she's fucking stunning and so talented. She's half British.
Yeah. I have heard of that like a lot of the big stars are half white, half Filipino. So this is just a side story, right? Yeah. So I have this friend, he grew up in the Bay, and he told me that in high school, he had a classmate that he went to school with who is now a big time Filipino actor in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
And I asked him, I was like, so when you went to school with this person, I don't know their name, but when you went to school with this guy, like, was he like fob sounding? Like, was he like that? And he was like, no, he was just like you and me, like Filipino-American with no accent. I was like, so you're telling me that when he became a star in the Philippines, he started to have like this created accent and that's how he would talk?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was just thinking like, dang, like he had to change up his whole like persona to be successful in the Philippines and be accepted as a entertainer in the Philippines.
You know, okay, so I have another side story that goes hand in hand with that. So if you don't know, or if you haven't listened to other episodes, I've briefly discussed this, but I've wanted to become a Disney Channel actress growing up. I wanted to be on Disney with Hilary Duff and Raven Simone, and that was my dream growing up. And my parents never supported me in this until one day they said, if you really want to become an actress, we can take you to the Philippines and you could be an actress there because you'll be a star. And I'm just like, I don't even speak Tagalog. I barely understand it. I grew up in an Ilocano household. And my dad said, no, you'll be a star because you're American. They like Americans out there. And I just thought that was just the weirdest thing to say. And it still makes me feel off. And now that I'm older and I'm learning and, you know, I'm educating myself, it's just a very weird, it's really sus, you know, because I'm not saying that, you know, if you're half Filipino, you can't go out to the Philippines and make a successful career, but it's just interesting how a lot of the top actors are half Filipino.
What I'm thinking is you're brown. I don't know. Like your dad might say, "Oh, if you go to the Philippines, you could be a successful actress." But because you're brown, I don't know if you could be a successful actress. They might look at you and be like, "No,
you could be a Village People in the back.
Let me get you some rags, and you're gonna be Village person number one."
You know, I was pretty dark as a kid.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and it's like maybe too, like your dad doesn't. When he made that comment, your dad might not have thought like, all these lead actresses are light skinned. They're just American or half Filipino. I think you'll be a star because you are American and not realizing you're brown and might have a disadvantage of becoming an actual star.
Yeah, it's crazy. But speaking of Filipino stars and films and all that, so there is a Filipino movie called Gluta, and by the time this episode is released, it should already be out. I don't believe it's going to be released in theaters in the Philippines, but on a streaming platform. And again, I'll get that link and put it in the blog post, so if you want to check it out, you know, I'll have that information. But it's a movie about a girl named Angel, and she wants to enter a beauty pageant. It's her dream. And what makes this film really unique and almost progressive is that it's about an Aita girl. And if you don't know what Aita means, Aita is indigenous Filipino people that comes from different areas of Luzon. They tend to have more darker skin and curly textured hair. Again, like we said, Filipino-ness is not a monolith. There are plenty of shades to go around. This is a type of Filipino you don't really see represented, and the film is supposed to be about breaking beauty standards. We watched the trailer, and there's a part where audiences see Angel getting approached by a person selling skin lightening products. And Angel is so adamant and so confident in her skin that despite all the ridicule she gets, she wants to enter this beauty pageant and, you know, break all those beauty standards and, you know, fulfill her dream. I think on paper and how I'm describing it, I'm pretty sure a lot of you are going to think, wow, what a very awesome progressive film. It is problematic though. And the problem is that they do blatant brown face, and it is so obvious. And honestly, it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's man. So if you look up gluta, right? Google GLUTA.
Yes.
And one of the first things you're going to see is the lead character, Angel. Angel has this horrible painted brown tan. Okay? It is so bad. It looks like they left her in the tanning booth and sprayed her down with cheap orange brown spray. And her hair is horrible. It looks like they put cotton balls, glued it all together, colored it black, and placed it on her head.
It looks like a really bad synthetic costume wig that you buy at Party City. And the fake tan they gave this girl, it's not even like they left her in a tanning booth. They straight up dumped barbecue sauce on her and painted it
and brushed her
and brushed
for marinade.
And yeah, they marinated her in this barbecue in fucking Mang Tomas sauce and brushed her with my dog's tail. That's how it's so bad. And the thing is, the actor who plays Angel is Ella Cruz, and she fits the normal beauty standard in the Philippines. She's fair skinned, she's thin, long straight hair. She's a very beautiful girl. But instead of casting someone of Aita descent or a Filipino who has darker skin naturally, where they don't have to marinate her, they cast Ella, slapped some dark ass brown makeup on her, and added that terrible excuse of a wig on her head. And they're like, beautiful, we're gonna win the Filipino Oscar.
Okay, real quick.
Yes.
You said you just used beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this is what they really think about the Aita people. They don't see them as beautiful individuals and a beautiful group of people. That's why they freaking didn't put the effort to have them look presentable as a people. Like, this movie is going to be seen by the world, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't want the Aita people to look great.
Yeah.
You instead are putting on this embarrassment of a look.
Yeah.
And man, that is so disrespectful. Like, the team working on this, just
Yeah, it's, again, I don't know who greenlit this. And the girl, Ella Cruz, she's gonna turn 25 this year. So she's a fully grown adult. It's not like she's 15. This is her first chance at stardom, and she's not used to the ways of Filipino Hollywood, I guess you could say, or the industry, the film industry. And maybe it's not like she's thinking, oh, this is my only chance. If I don't do this film, if I don't agree to this, maybe, where she's young and impressionable. She's a fully grown adult down to do brown face. And I also, maybe she didn't know, like, maybe she got the job. But actually, no, wait, I'm going to take that back, because I feel like they had to have... I've never had an audition before in film. Not me personally, but you go through script reads, you do a screen test. She had to have known what this film is about, and have to have known, oh, it's about an Aita girl named Angel who's trying to break beauty standards. And for you, a light-skinned Filipino, to take that opportunity away from a Filipino who is actually dark-skinned naturally, or an actual Aita descent like actor, like it's so
yeah, like, there should be some responsibility on your end as an actress to portray your character in the right way, or not even take the role. I mean, like, yeah, she could have done something where she studied the Aita people and their habits, or just the way they live. But at the same time, if you're out here playing costume and, Halloween with your role, it's not going to do anything justice. And, like, I can't even talk.
Yeah. It's like as if here in the U.S., if in the US they decided to make a film about Barack Obama, and they decided to have Channing Tatum play Barack and put him in blackface and stuck a wig on him.
Yeah.
It's disrespectful. And I know there is already a somewhat of a cultural divide between Filipino-Americans and Filipinos back home in the motherland, where, Filipino-Americans, anytime we see any type of cultural appropriation, prejudice, racism, we see it often, so we're able to recognize it. Maybe in the Philippines and in the film industry back there, they're not thinking in that progressive way yet. So maybe in their heads, they think it's totally okay.
Mm-hmm. I would want to speak with somebody who works in the film industry in the Philippines, because, obviously blackface in America and Hollywood and obviously blackface in Hollywood is definitely a no-no.
Yes.
And it has been a no-no for a really long time. Arguably.
Yeah.
But, I really want to know in the Philippines, like is blackface, brownface seen as bad, or is it seen as like accepted, or is it hush hush? We all know, like, in a lot of Asian cultures, causing a stir, being opinionated is something that's not always seen as it's seen as taboo.
Yeah.
So people don't step up, aren't vocal. So even if this Ella Cruz chick was like, I don't think this is right, is she really gonna step up and say that?
Yeah.
To the people running the show, or is she gonna say, nah, I want that check, or I can't tarnish. Okay, I just thought about something.
Yes.
These stars, they really want to uphold a certain image about themselves. But to me, if I took on a role like this and I was playing an Ida person and I put extra brown face on me, that I would feel like that would eventually tarnish my persona, tarnish how I looked, to the public.
Yeah. But
for some reason, it doesn't seem like that was in her head.
Yeah. I don't know. Or maybe I've never seen Ella Cruz in any of her production before. I've never seen a movie she's in or anything like that. So I don't know how big of an actress that she is, but maybe her being a light-skinned Filipino actress, she's gotten away with a lot of things. And so maybe this is something, maybe she thought, oh, it's fine. Like, I'm Ella Cruz. I can do it. Okay, product placement. But you know what's worse? So the director, Daryl Yap, endorses this film as if nothing is wrong. So media platforms and a lot of people on social media are trying to hold him accountable and, telling him this is wrong, this is brown face, blackface, what the fuck is wrong with you? And this is what he tweeted. Political correctness is BS. If people will say that I'm problematic for making Ella as a black person, then that's their opinion. I won't consider that as a fact. What a bunch of fucking shit. There's a lot to unpack here. There's already a lot of colorism and anti-blackness within the Filipino community. Again, a whole different episode because your girl can dive right in. And so for him to just know that, he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. He is clearly holding some kind of microaggression there. And maybe that's why he doesn't want to actually hire a dark-skinned Filipino actress, or because he doesn't want to work with a dark-skinned...
Yeah, he doesn't want to give no dark-skinned actress shine.
Yeah.
And acknowledgement. Like, when people already start a comment with, oh, that's bullshit, that already shows that you're very defensive.
Yes.
And you're not trying to listen to people and their thoughts or their opinions on something that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's obviously, people get emotional, but you're a director for a film.
Yes.
Like a big film that's a very like deep topic already. And I think for him to kind of like turn his cheek and act like he's not doing anything wrong, it's very ignorant. So when I looked up comments about this director as well, I read that he had consultants that helped lead him to his decision of using the brown face and his casting choices. But it's like, okay, you consulting with people doesn't mean it validates your opinion. your consultants were probably just as ignorant and stupid as your ass. And it's such a joke. Like there's a responsibility as a director. There's a responsibility as a creator to accurately portray individuals, to accurately portray stories. When you walk into this and use brownface, which in the history of filmmaking has always been a deep issue, you know, using blackface,
yellowface too,
you know, there's a problem there that you're choosing to ignore, or you're just not an educated filmmaker.
Yeah, just the ignorance that came out of that tweet was very entitled. It was disgusting. Made me want to sock him in the face.
Yeah.
I was like forget like Ella wanting to take on this role and agreeing to brownface. Like, dude, this is the director.
Yeah.
And your consultants, like you said, are just as ignorant. And the thing is, this isn't the first time this director has been under fire. So he had another film about mental health. And the movie poster is what he got in trouble for. So the characters of the film their faces are on this poster, and they're sticking out their tongues and contorting their faces, essentially making like really silly faces. And Filipino actress Liza Soberano, I love her. She is so pretty and so talented. I love all of her films. And anyways, so she actually criticized the poster, saying that mental health is not a joke. And mental health is already a taboo topic within the Filipino community. But if they're willing to tackle mental health and tackle the ups and downs and the realities and the harsh truths of mental health, it would have been a really progressive film for Filipinos to watch and get the conversation about depression, about anorexia, about, you know, mental health going. And for this director to have his character faces contort themselves into silly faces and make light of the subject is, like Liza said, it's you know, it's not a joke. It's not okay.
Yeah. Like I could understand if like these movie posters were done creatively just for, you know, clickbait or to, you know, grab attention. But to ridicule mental health and to treat it as like something crazy, as someone who struggled with mental health, you know, I find that really, really offensive.
Yes.
And like this can go to another topic, but, you know, I want to note that, you know, in my experience trying to talk to my own family about mental health struggles and, you know, anxiety and all that, it's very much taboo and not taken seriously or not comforted in the ways that someone who has mental health issues needs that type of support. And like, you know, yes, having a film about it could be progressive and impactful, but at the same time, I don't think that a mental health film is the right move to be the first part of the conversation. Mental health should be spoken about in a space that's going to support it and be you know, where you feel safe.
Yeah.
And having these people ridicule faces or mental health is not safe at all. If anything, I feel like it closes the door for conversation. But, you know, back to our topic, you know, like this guy, it seems like he just doesn't care about how he portrays anybody. Yeah. Or certain individuals that really need that safe care and support.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, Gluda could have been a wonderful film. It could have been a really touching story with amazing representation. I would have been all over it. I would have watched it. As I said before, I grew up watching American mainstream media. Even though I was a military child and kind of moved around a lot, I still watched American TV and film, and I never saw myself. And then when I started watching Tagalog films, I still didn't see myself. I'm a brown girl. I come from an Ilocano household. I barely speak a lick of Tagalog, barely understand it. I watch with subtitles. I also have thick hair, and I'm also curvy. I'm not thin. And for the first time, Gluda could have been a great representation of myself, and I feel like myself and probably other people who feel this way, it feels like they got cheated on, it got snatched away. Like, this could have been great, very progressive, but an ignorant director decided, like, nope, I don't want to work with an actual dark skin actor. I would rather work with this pretty light skin actress and just slap some dark brown makeup on her.
Is this director light skinned?
Yes.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it. Like, as an adult who has done severe unpacking and will continue to unpack through therapy, I can proudly say now that I fucking love my heritage. I love being Filipino and I love being the skin I'm in. And I only hope that others can feel the same way, because brown is fucking beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, but the director and production team really missed a great opportunity to change the game of how Filipinos are represented and represent. Wow, I cannot talk today. The director and production team really missed a great opportunity to change the game of how Filipinos are represented, especially because nowadays there's a lot of people who are down to watch foreign films, or films that's a lot of people love watching Korean movies, Japanese movies. We watched a Japanese film during quarantine, or that Japanese TV show. So I'm pretty sure there are people out there watching Tagalog films and Tagalog TV shows and probably really love them. And this would have been a great way to show non-Filipinos, other parts of Filipino people.
Yeah, like, it's not only a responsibility to portray Filipinos in a more realistic light to other Filipinos, but also to the world. Like, I think that's something that people need to, like, really be mindful of, like, of what you're creating, because you might be the first person or the first example somebody else sees of a Filipino anything. Yeah. Even in our platform, so it's definitely a responsibility of what you're putting out there, and you can't be careless or ignorant. Like, this director guy is completely ignorant. And yes, I said it, sir.
Ignorant.
And the stigma of darker skin being unworthy or undesirable needs to change, because so future generations don't feel trapped by these Eurocentric, ideals of beauty.
Yeah.
And I would like for people in the Philippines, to really embrace their skin, their natural, beautiful brown skin. You don't need these whitening creams. You don't need these procedures to make yourself look different and look lighter and acceptable, because you're exactly acceptable the way you are. And man, it makes me really, really sad.
Yeah.
To know that people don't love themselves because of how really beautiful they are.
Yeah. And I mean, I get it, going through cosmetic procedures, here in the US, people get tans, so they're not as pasty. I get it. So it's kind of like, I get why if you don't like something, you want to change it, but it's almost this really sad obsession for it that is it's like, just, I don't know. Like, I would love to talk to someone who is obsessed with having lighter skin, and like, why is that, and what's the psychology behind that? Because there's so much to unpack, that, we don't understand, because we don't do that. And on that note, love your brown skin. Yeah. So if you like this episode and you want to continue on in the conversation, if there was something in this episode that you agree with and you want to add another point to, or if there's something in this episode that you heard and you thought, you know what, you're wrong, call us out, let us know. We're here to learn, so that way we could be better and do better. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you would like to hit us up, do so through social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at Cracking the Coconut, as well as TikTok and Twitter at Cracking the Coco.
Yes, and we also have our website, crackingthecoconut.com. We got blog posts on there, all of our episodes. Also, information about us if you want to get to know us a little better, about these two people who are right in your face and also in your ear.
Yeah, these two people who love their brown skin.
Yes, these two brown skin loving people.
Yeah. Have an amazing, wonderful weekday, evening, whatever it may be. Make good choices and don't do brown face.
Peace.
Peace.